What they're doing is they're tapping into wave energy. And it's when you tap into that energy, everything becomes effortless. But you need awareness of where is that energy and how do I mine it? Where do I tap into it? So I don't want to tell you how to surf. I don't want to teach you how to surf. I want to show you how to move. And then I want to show you how to tap energy and feel that energy.
That is a couple of quotes from Clayton Nienaber in today's brand new episode with Clayton. Before that, please could you just support the show a little bit by just giving it a rating on the app you're using or just sharing it with a friend. You can also donate at surfmastery.com. And big shout out to all the listeners who donated last week. Thank you so much. The response was overwhelming, and it means the show is going to continue, and it means I have support through this very challenging times. I won't go over that again. Listeners, if you didn't hear the intro to the last episode, go back to the last episode. And if you're new to the show, this is not a current affairs podcast. It is an audio educational resource. So go back to any episode and it will stand alone and stand the test of time. That's how it's been designed. Okay, and on to today's episode. So Clayton and I discussed the Newtonian physics and neuroscience of surfing. Clayton talks about the science of the wave energy itself and how to harness it, and also how when we do get close to that wave energy, how it affects our nervous systems and our psychology. We also discuss the importance of body mechanics and positioning. And this is a lot of information in this podcast. It is gold. And listeners, if you enjoy this episode, please engage. Let us know. Let Clayton know on Instagram. Go to my Instagram, Surf Mastery. Make a comment on the post to the show. That'd be great. And of course, ask questions. Without further ado, I give you another conversation with Clayton.
I think for some people COVID's been good and others COVID's been horrible, and for me it's been fairly good. I've been able to focus inwardly on all the online content, and I've just been learning so much more. So yeah, it's been really, really exciting.
We haven't spoken about surfing in quite some time. I imagine that you have been thinking in some strange and unique ways.
I have.
Tell me what's going on in your brain at the moment.
Well, from your background, if I spoke to you about potential energy and kinetic energy, what does that mean?
Potential energy and kinetic. Oh, this takes me back to my last year of high school in physics class.
Yep.
I'm going to have to let you answer that question.
Okay, so potential is energy of positioning and kinetic is energy of movement.
Okay.
Does that make kind of sense?
So you're potentially ready for gravity to take effect?
Well, think about this. A swell line comes through. It's traveled for thousands of kilometers, and as it gets to you, it picks you up above the water level and then drops you again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's potential energy where it lifts you. Now, when a wave breaks, that water has the potential to lift you up, which is your potential energy, and then if you catch that wave and slide down it, your potential energy, which is your energy of position, changes to kinetic energy, which is energy of movement.
Mm-hmm.
Which says in surfing, if you're better positioned, you're easily able to use the wave's energy better. Okay, but if you're poorly positioned, you then have to use your body's energy.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense to you?
Yes. So you're talking about you want to be falling as much as you can?
Okay, so let's talk about, let's compare surfing.
Because I've always thought of surfing, top to bottom surfing is kind of like jumping and landing. Like I feel like you spring off the bottom and you jump, you're weightless.
Yep.
And then you kind of land in a top turn and then you fall back down with gravity and then you change direction again and the cycle repeats.
So
is that kind of what you're getting at?
Close. Well, imagine it this way. When you surf, your head stays in the same place. It doesn't move. If you're surfing front side, your board would go out onto your toe edge on your bottom turn. And then as you go to the top turn, your head stays there, but get inverted. and your board goes on rail for a hillside turn. So the more off balance you are...
Hold on, I'm going to stop you there, Clayton, because you're describing good surfing.
Yes.
And for listeners who don't understand what Clayton's talking about, you watch any good surfer in a surfing video and you'll see their head doesn't move much as it goes across the screen, and their legs are moving underneath them a lot. So that's what Clayton's alluding to. Sorry, to continue.
This is all going to tie in, so bear with me. Okay. Now, you'll also notice that those good surfers don't move much.
Exactly. Yes. When you look at what they're doing, yeah.
Their hands are quiet, their heads are still, the knees may be compressing and extending, but what they're doing is they're tapping into wave energy. And it's when you tap into that energy, everything becomes effortless. But you need awareness of where is that energy and how do I mine it? Where do I tap into it? So that's one part of it. Now, have a look at a sprinter starting a 100-meter sprint. The guys are just bundled masses of energy, and as the gun goes off, boom, the guys are up and sprinting. Okay, so what's their potential like for movement before the gun goes off? They're leaning forward, they're on their toes, and their potential is great, and then they spring into kinetic energy. Okay, but have a look at the lower intermediate surfing. What is their potential like for movement? They're surfing off the back foot, they're stalling their boards, there's tension in their bodies, they can't move well, there's uncoordination, they're not mining wave energy, they haven't tapped into the wave's potential, and it's just like it's a dog's breakfast. It's just there's everything everywhere. It's really messy and uncoordinated. But watch someone with good style. When they bottom turn, they're really exciting to watch, because when you see their potential for the movement, which is the top turn, you don't know whether Felipe Toledo's doing an aerial, an ollie, like you don't know what's happening next. So that potential energy, when witnessed, when it's good energy, it's exciting to watch. But when you watch a guy who surfs really poorly and you can't understand his potential for the move that's going to unfold, okay, it looks shit. So I've been going down this thing about trying to make people aware, is their potential matching their, matching their what they want.
The desired kinetic.
Correct, yeah, there we go. And 9 out of...
You can use that if you want.
And but those two don't often link up with surfers. What they want and what their body language is suggesting are two different things.
So is it about timing the use of potential energy?
When you get to being advanced, yes. Now this is the kicker. This is what I'm getting excited about. Think about this. Now, this is from our instinctual background, born millions of years ago, from cavemen days. We've got our 3 responses to a situation: the freeze, flight, and fight. Okay, so a saber-toothed tiger walks down the hill and you see it and you're like, and you freeze, you shit yourself. Some of them might run, and maybe a madman grabs a spear and tries to kill the saber-toothed tiger. Okay, so think of your beginner surfer. They're learning how to surf. They're on a big foam board. They're quarter foamy. They stand up and they freeze. And they don't know how to move. And if they do move, they're like icemen. They're just stuck. Okay? Now think about your intermediate, the person who's learned how to move. Okay? They run. They take off on a wave. They don't sit in the pocket and surf. They see how fast they can go onto the shoulder. They even record that on a GPS Rip Curl watch and try to see how fast they run. Okay, which is absolute nonsense. Because if you watch Mick Fanning surf, he surfs slower than the intermediates. He stays in the pocket, his nose faces the beach, and he takes his time to go from the top to the bottom. He fades the bottom turn, doing a figure 8, all the way up to the lip, hits it, gets speed from the wave.
His displacement is low, but his distance is high. Whereas the intermediate surfer, it's the same because they're going in a straight line.
Yeah, so Mick Fanning's actually traveling a further distance.
But relative to where he started, he's no better off than anyone else. But he's traveled a much further distance. So his board speed was a lot faster.
Now here's the big difference is his energy output is lower. The intermediate's energy output is higher. But the wave usage on Mick Fanning, in other words, the wave energy that he's absorbed is like maxed, it's up here. Whereas the intermediate's wave usage, they just hop the shoulder, they actually bounce back to the foam. They never go top to bottom. They're always like mid-face and floundering.
What's the coaching tips around this principle? What can the beginner and intermediate, how can they use this change in perspective in their own surf?
Okay, so what a beginner needs to do is they're frozen and they're stuck. So, Bruce Lee said that you need to be like water. But intermediates are like frozen, they're like ice. So they don't move well, they're clunky. And if you watch a kid riding a bicycle for the first time, they're clunky. So they actually got to learn how to move less. Okay, and it's the subtlety of movements. Like really good surfers make subtle adjustments to the board because the boards are really high performance and they're dialed in. As a beginner starts going towards intermediate, they start learning how to move and they get excited. So they over move and they just surf to the shoulder, bounce their way back, and they're almost doing too much. Okay? Then what Mick Fanning's doing is he learns how to slow down because he's reading the wave and he's understanding where the power is on the wave, where the energy is in the wave. His equipment allows him to do tighter turns to kind of harvest that wave energy better. Whereas what a beginner does, they rely on volume because their knowledge and understanding is very low. So they need volume to come up to assist them. Then what an intermediate does, they choose short, wide, flat boards to make them go faster because they're in flight mode. Okay? And then do you remember Slater rode banana boards? They slow, but they're amazing in the pocket and they allow you to harvest energy. But when your big range of intermediate surfers jumped onto that board, they found it doesn't go fast from A to B because the board wants to turn and go up and down. And so what it suggests is that a beginner cannot ride an intermediate's board. An intermediate cannot ride an advanced surfer's board. But an advanced surfer, you can surf anything backwards because you have the skill requisite to do that. Okay, but the problem with surfers is that like an intermediate will get a Mick Fanning board or Philippe Toledo Sharp Eye thinking that that's going to make them jump from intermediate to advanced, when in actual fact it just highlights any bad technique as well as good technique. So you have to kind of master your body before you can master your equipment.
Yes, and how does one go about that?
Repetition.
Yes.
You've got to get your reps in. Now the problem with surfing is that we don't get enough reps in the water. So what we've got to do is to start simulating those reps outside of the water. The same way a cricket player goes to the cricket nets. The same way a tennis player might have a machine shoot them a tennis ball and they do reps. We need to start doing simulations. And a really good way is to use surf skates. But like anything, you could pick up bad habits if you do it wrong and good habits if you train it correctly. So you need awareness on how to train these things.
The beginner is freezing, the intermediate is
running,
flighting.
Yes.
And the advanced just wants to
stay in the pocket
be where the chaos is and fight.
Just hit the lip, pull in the barrel, get deeper, because that's where most of the feeling comes from. So it's also got to do with risk and reward. Okay, have I lost you on the sound? It's just gone a bit weird here.
No.
Okay.
I got you.
So the higher the risk, the better the reward. So if an intermediate is running towards the shoulder, where's the reward in that? Other than to all your mates on the beach, hey, I just traveled like 5 kilometers going 30 miles an hour on that last wave. Like, nah, it doesn't count. It's how deep in the barrel, how vertical did you go? How high on the air are you progressing? So it's very much got to do with risk and reward, for sure.
Well, the powerful part of the wave is closest to where it's breaking.
Yes, where it's got the most energy.
And that's where good surfers love to play.
Yeah.
So in order to be comfortable playing there, so to tie those two things together, in order to have comfort playing in that zone, in that power zone of the wave, you have to have control of your body movement. Is that part of it?
Okay, so I did an interview with Kelly Slater, it was a couple of years ago now, and he said something profound to me. I had to go back and listen to it a couple of times until I found it. So I was asking him about his stance, because he was playing a lot of golf, and he said when he played more golf, he started to concentrate on his technique. He concentrated on what he was like in between turns. So I was thinking, okay, what are you doing on the turns? He was focusing on what he's doing in between turns. And he said no matter where he visualized himself on that wave, he needed to be in a neutral stance in between turns. So no matter what happened on that wave, he was ready to react to it.
Okay, so by neutral stance, you mean like an athletic stance, like ready to move in any direction.
Okay, so if I said to you, okay, Michael, we are going to go and do mixed martial arts. I want you to get into the ring and get into a fight stance. What would that be?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it'd be knees slightly bent, hips slightly bent, just sort of protecting yourself, your rib cage, alert, aware, standing tall, but not straight up and down.
So it's relaxed, because the more relaxed you are, the more alert you are. So let me give you an example. Again, with fighting, if you hold tension in your body, in other words, if someone's standing on a leg and the leg's tense, if you kick that leg will break. Okay, but if you relax while you're standing, if someone kicks your leg, you'll absorb the impact and you won't break or damage anything.
Be like water.
Correct. So if you identify tension and you hit it, it breaks. So likewise, when you surf, if you watch Kelly Slater when he's surfing, you don't see any tension when he surfs.
He's comfortable in the chaos.
That's exactly what it is.
So didn't Kelly Slater also once describe surfing as a martial art? I did hear him say that once. I can't remember where.
Well, I like the whole Bruce Lee thing, saying that you have to be like water, because water moves well. If you freeze water, it doesn't move. Likewise, if you heat up water particle, it moves around too much, becomes a gas vapor. There's nothing there. So on your surfboard, if you're moving around too much, like none of that movement transfers into your surfing. It's just messy, it's uncoordinated. But you need to learn how to flow. And when you flow, you tend to move really well through water and you understand water.
I like that. Yeah, I get what water does this. When water is too violent, it just becomes aerated. And that's exactly what you're toying with.
Correct.
Just close to that aerated water.
So this is something that I've been working on myself personally. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So I've slowed my bottom turns down and I'm generating more speed through the turn. I've slowed my turns down, the turns are smoother, and I'm not losing any speed. Whereas if I go into turn, I push violently, I break the water, I aerate it, the tail slides out, I lose traction.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's for listeners, that's a very famous saying in the martial arts world. That's why in martial arts, thousands of year old tradition, movement focused, they do things called katas and forms and such things where they repetitively practice the move they need to. So for example, a punch might be from A to B with a fist. You practice that 1,000 times, concentrating on it being slow and smooth, in the hopes that when you do need to use it fast, that fist travels in a very straight, controlled direction, and then you add your power to it. Same principle in surfing, but we don't use it enough, which is what you're saying. We need to have our forms.
100%.
Our forms, and so we've got to practice these movements.
Now, Michael, you know what surfers do? They just try to do that like king punch, bang, without any practicing. So I did kickboxing for about 2 months. It killed me. I rolled my ankle, rolled my wrist, rolled my thumb. I had to give up because I was trying to punch too hard to impress the guy that I was training with.
in martial arts, you go in there with, I'm just going to go at it and I can throw a punch. You learn very quickly how pathetic you are because the feedback is instant. Now with surfing, you're only going to get that feedback if you see yourself on film. Really.
Basically, the guy who taught me how to elbow, kick, punch and all that was saying, dial down the intensity of the punch, increase the accuracy. And through doing reps, okay, just by getting accurately and punching slow, the reps are going to give you, it's going to build muscle, and then you're going to get speed, and then you're going to get strength. He said, don't worry about power. So I thought about this on surfing. Everyone's trying to do these big turns. So I always tell people, just dial it down, turn it 60%, and it'll be better than your turn blowing the tail out at 100% and falling. And as soon as you do 60%, you kind of relax into the turn and you get more sensory feedback from the wave and feedback from your board. And the turns are so much nicer.
With martial arts, the feedback is so much, it's more black and white. Do you know what I mean? If you were to spar with someone and you had really bad technique,
yes,
it's instantly,
okay,
instantly. But with surfing, you can surf with poor technique and you think, I mean, it's still fun, but what you don't realize is what you're missing out on.
Okay, so here's the kicker. In martial arts, if you've got your hands down, you're going to get punched in the nose, you're going to get a blood nose, and it freaking hurts. In surfing, you surf with your hands down, you fall off and catch rail and go, oh, that was a shit wave, or maybe I need a better board. Let me go get a Hypto Crypto. So, like, surfers are quick to want to blame the equipment or blame the waves. They never look inward and go, hey, I'm surfing shit, I dropped my hand, so I caught rail and fell off the board. So in surfing, the one thing that you can control is your body, but they don't look inwardly to controlling the body, they look for excuses outwardly. And which is a strange phenomenon with surfers. Okay, so you play music. Let's compare surfing to music. So imagine I like music, all right? So I'm in the car, in the shower, whatever it is, and a song comes on that I like, and I'm just jamming to it. Like, yeah, that's awesome. This is really, really fun. I may not know the words. I don't care. I just nail the chorus, and it's really, really fun because I'm kind of interested in that song. All right, that's people learning how to surf. Okay, but then what happens is they start taking a bit more of an interest in it because they want to improve their surfing. So they start to consume videos, and they're like, wow, Torren Martin and Mikey February surfs at really good style. And they can kind of now see what's good and what's bad. They might even get some video and go, wow, I'm kind of surfing bad. Okay? So that's like almost going to a karaoke bar and going, hell, there's actually words and lyrics. And for the first time, I understand that this is the right lyrics. And there's that little ball that hits each word. Like, this is the time that I have to sing it at. And I can't go too fast. I can't go too slow. Okay? So there you're actually getting knowledge about surfing. But that knowledge does not help you surf better. The reason being, the brain learns really quickly, but the body learns really slow. So what you then have to do, if you're a musician, you might go and get a music lesson from your guitar teacher. Okay? He teaches you how to read music. He teaches you which chords to play, when to play it, about tempo, about how to hold a note, all that kind of stuff. So that's like you going to your music teacher's like going to a surf coach, okay? Or doing the OMBI program, whatever that may be.
Yeah, you have to do your scales, otherwise you won't understand music, you won't,
correct,
your fingers won't work.
Now inside of those scales, it's a slow process, it's a frustrating process. But once you understand that, you could almost from then pick up any other instrument and almost play it really well because you've got a basic understanding of how music works, which is similar to, think of your instrument as like, if you can play guitar, you might be able to get the rhythm on the drums. If you can surf a regular board, your instrument is your surfboard. You could ride a twin fin, you could ride a mid-length, you can ride a longboard. If you understand waves, if you understand and you've done your scales being your reps, then if you understand that, you go to that upper level where you become creative and you have fun.
Yes. Well, that's the idea with music, is the reason you do your scales and your theory and your practice is so that when you do go to jam, you don't have to think about any of it. You just focus on the music.
Yes.
And then there's no separation between your creativity and your movement.
Correct. So imagine, where would music be if no one did the scales and no one did the practicing? That's where surfing is. You get some guys who just learn by ear and like they figure out how to play. They don't need to read music.
Some people, because I had this question about surfing too. I was like, well, how come some surfers just seem to, and I think it's just good musicians. They just happen to have good hand control, and they just happen upon good technique.
Yep.
And they happen to get the right lesson early on, and it builds from there.
Correct.
And most bad surfers, the foundation is just So you think if you're a good surfer and your first 2 or 3 surfs were amazing experiences and you happen to stand in the right position and be in control, then you're set up for a great surfing technique and a surfing life. That's very few of us.
Yeah. Yep.
Very few of us. We all have to go back.
Do the scales.
The 12-week program encompasses all of this stuff, right?
Well, okay, so like I said, in lockdown, we've managed to spend a lot of time developing this program called OMBI, which we've got an app for it now.
Which is Ocean Mind Body Equipment.
Yes. And on that, we give away so much knowledge. And if you don't know, you don't know. So the whole thing about OMBI is we want people to understand how boards work, how the ocean works, how your body works, how the mind works. So we've got psychologists, we make people go body surf. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that we do, all in pursuit of knowledge. Just because you know it doesn't mean that you can do it. So we've created courses, one being the 12-week challenge, where we almost get you back to your foundations. So many times I've had guys come to me for coaching and they've spent 20 years surfing, picking up bad habits. And all I got to do is literally just try to undo the bad habits before I can even teach them something new. So once you've got a good foundation, it's like building a house. You've got your corner blocks, your foundations there, then whatever you want to build after that, it's up to you. So I've actually come across the thinking, or whatever you want to call it, is that I don't teach people how to surf anymore. I teach them how to move. And then however they want to be creative in the water, however, like I will teach you scales on and then however you want to play your guitar, to whatever music you want to make, whether it's country, rock, like whatever.
Well, not just scales, like music theory and song structure as well.
Yes. So I don't want to tell you how to surf. I don't want to teach you how to surf. I want to show you how to move. And then I want to show you how to tap energy and feel that energy. And then if you get excited and you want to bolt and run, do it. Because if it makes you feel good, do it. If you want to hit the lip, do it. If you want to get barreled, do it. But you need to be able to know how to move to be able to tap into all of that.
Yes. All right. Well, I've done the 12-week challenge. I urge listeners to do it. Just simple. Just stop spending money on surfboards. Unless, of course, you want to buy one of Clayton's boards, then do that. But you're better off spending money on learning about surfing and changing the way your body moves, because that's the only way that you will get better.
Yeah, so
full stop. That
was that whole thing I was saying, like the intermediate wants to get Philippe Toledo's board, so hopefully he can do an air. But he hasn't learned the body function. So, I don't know, dropping $1,000 on a new board, yes, it feels good. Does it make you surf better? No. Learning how to move your body, is it healthier for you? Yes. Is it going to give you longevity in surfing? Yes. After that, you could probably ride any board and you're going to have fun in it.
Beautiful. Well, Surf Mastery and OMBI have teamed up to offer listeners a discount to this program. And also OMBI and Clayton are in full support of my personal situation, which we discussed in the previous episode. So listeners, please go and check out OMBI. And if you want to do that, please go through either the link attached to the app that you're listening to this through, or go to my website and go from there. So my website is surfmastery.com. Thank you so much for your time, Clayton. Amazing.
No, stoked. I love being on the podcast, so thanks for the invite.
Awesome. All right, Clayton. Thank you.